Well, I don't like to get into doing any kind of baking because, as you can see the ingredients here, what's good for you? Maybe the pistachio nuts, and that's it. But I tasted these ginger cookies that someone made a couple of weeks back, and I go, I have to replicate that recipe. So they gave it to me. Her name was Eunice, and the only thing I added to it was a little few pistachio nuts, which I'm going to like stick on the top, and a little rum flavoring, very little. So first what we have to do is cream the butter and the sugar. So I'll put that in the machine. She didn't specify what type of butter she used, so I have regular butter which has salt in it, so I cut the salt content that she had in the recipe in half. She could have been using sweet butter, you never know. So the butter is in the machine, and it won't go on because you see this? Very important item. Plug that into the wall. And we're going to put the sugar in with the butter. And what do we have to do here? Almost all the time, I shouldn't say that, all the time, when you put butter and sugar together, you have to whip it up, make it creamy. The butter has to dissolve. Or what you're going to have, like you might see in some items that you eat, like all of a sudden when you get to the bottom, there's sugar there. That's because the sugar was never dissolved. So this has to come out creamy. I have to lift the bowl just a little bit because I'm not making, if I was using a pound of butter, this would work much better. So I don't feel like making all of that. I have to help this a little by taking a little spatula. Pushing this down. You can, as you're doing this, you can feel the texture of the sugar, just like if there was sand in there. Anyway, I'm going to hold this up and let this go until everything is creamed. Now what I did to compensate for the fact that the machine doesn't work with such a small amount, I doubled up on the butter and the sugar. But I will take half of this out before I add the flour. So the recipe stands the way it is. But this way, it'll be able to cream up. So you just run this until it's not gritty and it's creamy. Even though you have the correct amount in here for the machine to work, you still have to push down the sides until this stuff gets really soft, and then it will fly around all by itself. But if you can still hear the sugar is like sand. So the hardest part of this recipe actually was dicing up the crystallized ginger. Most difficult part, most time consuming is this. Then after we're going to take this whip off, put the dough hook on there, put the flour, have a dough. Wrap the dough in a cylinder, about like so. Put it in the refrigerator, let it firm up so we can cut it. And put it on the cookie sheet, parchment paper, or those nice rubber mats that they have, and just bake them off. I'm figuring another 10 minutes this should be ready. Now if you notice the difference in the color, it gets a little whiter, air is incorporated in there, and that's what happens. But we're still not done yet. And this has been whipping for 10 minutes. Now if you just listen to the scraping, it doesn't sound as gritty anymore. And it's almost turning pure white. So we'll be finished, depending on how fast your mixer is. I wish this was a little bit faster, but that's the speed it has. So it's taken over a half hour and we're almost done. Well, I didn't put the salt, so I'll put the salt in now. And just a little bit of the rum extract. Now that it's nice and creamy, I'm going to stop it. And then we're going to take the whip off and then add the flour and the crystallized ginger. Now we're going to add the crystallized ginger. And you got to cut that up by hand. If you try to put it in the machine and do it, it's going to get all stuck together. So you make long strips, julienne, and then you slice the other way and you have little fine dices. So now we have that in there and we're going to add the flour. After this comes together, I get a big piece of saran wrap and roll this out and refrigerate it. And as soon as it's firm enough to cut with a knife, that's what I'm going to do. Help it along a little. All we need is to bring this together. We don't have to overdo it. And you see this come together like if you were making a loaf of bread. You know how the dough just comes together in one clump. Almost. And we're going to have to leave room on the pan when you lay this out because it is going to spread. Because really what's in here? A lot of butter, sugar, and just flour. There's no egg in this to keep it from spreading. But that's what you want. So we are complete now. Everything has been mixed together thoroughly. And that's it. And the pistachio nuts will be going on top. That's optional. I'm doing that because I think it's a good idea. So we're going to take this now. I'm going to remove the machine. Let me cut this off for a minute. Now let's see how neat we can be. Here's a large piece of saran wrap from one of those big rolls. And I will just put the I hope these come out as nice as the ones that she gave me. will not be touching this with my hand. No reason to. Just get it all on there. Now, which way you want to go? You want to go this way? Yeah, since it's already long like that, I'm going to shape it into a log. Maybe I should have done it in 2 pieces. Most people don't have a large paper like I have. So you would, you know, like cut it in half and make 2 logs. But since I'm stubborn, I'm just going to make 1 log. That's it. Take this, put it in the refrigerator, and it's got to firm up. That could take a couple hours, even longer. Now this has firmed up slightly. Oh, a little over an hour and a half in the refrigerator. And now, well, instead of unwrapping it, I'm just going to cut it in half. Beautiful. Now that might be a little too big, but what I could have done, like I said earlier, is take the dough, cut it in half, and put half of it, and then make it not like so, about that big. But I didn't do that. So we're going to live with it like this and see how big they come out. We're going to cut them about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm using 2 different ways of baking. Parchment paper, and my favorite, this rubberized mat that lasts as long as you take care of it forever. And the oven has been heated, not preheated, because if you preheat something, like George Carlin will say, that means you're heating it before you're heating it. So the oven was heated to 300 degrees, this convection oven, which brings it down to 275. So a regular oven would be 300. Anyway, we're going to cut this about 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to be a contractor to figure that out. So look like 1/4 of an inch? Sure, why not? And try and do it straight. Now these are going to open up a lot, so give space. Not sure how much they're going to open, even though I saw what she gave me, but these I'm sure are a little larger than what she did. So just cut them. Actually, this is the easiest part. Cut them, fill up the pans, and we're going to put it in the oven for exactly, I think, 30 minutes. I will set the timer, and we'll see. Now let's hope that that spacing is pretty good. And if you look closely, you can see the pieces of the crystallized ginger, maybe with some better lighting. You can see the pieces. So you know, even that 1/3 of a cup is plenty. Especially if you mince it up nice and small. So we're going to fill the pans up, then I'm going to put them in the oven. I have a feeling that these might be too close together because they will go down and spread. So if you can notice these on the bottom here, these 6, I think that's how I should have spaced them. But it's not a big deal, because if these come out correctly, then that's the way you would space them. Now we're going into the oven. It's all set, 20 minutes, and we'll see what comes out. 20 minutes have elapsed, so let's see what we got here. Okay. smells good. Of course it smells good. There's butter in there. Let these rest for a few minutes, because you know what happens. They're going to harden as soon as they cool down. But they look nice. They're not burnt. I'll wait 10 minutes. Now, while that's cooling off, we did have some left over. So what I'm going to do is use this, and I forgot the pistachio nuts, so we're still going to get the pistachio nuts going. It'll be a cuter looking cookie than the rest. I'm using this number 18-8 scoop, and I'm going to just like so, put it down. I want to see what's going to happen with this, and put one little pistachio nut in there, like so. Now, since this is much thicker, I'm going to leave this in there for a half hour. Just pack it in tight. And they'll probably come out with this same shape. So I'll continue that. I'll put them in the oven for a half hour, see what they look like. Okay, so I pushed them in. Now a half hour, we'll see how they come out. They cooled down. I just ate one. I'm going to freeze the rest and give it away. That is nice. That's a shortbread cookie with ginger. Well, after taking a look at these, I changed my mind about the 30 minutes and took them out after 25. So they're fine. We'll just let them rest, and they're cute. I hope you enjoy this recipe.